Hello, everyone. I am Lori from the University of Minnesota Extension. We are just getting started in the room. We only have one person in the room so far. So we'll wait just another minute or two, and then we will get started so everybody has a chance to join us who would like to do so.
Hi, Hartley.
Hi, Joan.
Again, welcome everybody. I think we are 1 minute past 3, so we can go ahead and get started. I only have an hour with you today. So first, thanks to everyone who has taken time already out of their schedule to meet with me Friday and today during my visit. And for those of you who gave me all kinds of advice on things to do in Grand Marais and Grand Portage over the weekend, it was wonderful. So I've learned a lot about your community, and I think that having this community conversation is a very fitting way to end this day. So we're here today to talk about Diane Booth's retirement and how we want to fill the very big shoes that Diane leaves behind. We did get some comments, questions from the public that came in advance, but I will start with just a little go around of who we have on the call. I am a regional director with Extension, so I'll explain a little bit about what that role is. The University of Minnesota divides the state into 10 regions, just to make it manageable for Extension. And there is a regional director in charge of each region. Cook County is you're in a little bit of a different situation, but we have a new position that's being opened that would be this region. My region is the central region of the state, but someone asked if I would come up here and work with your county and have some conversations as someone who's been around Extension for a little while and try to help kind of weed through how we fill this role. So I agreed to do that. So that's a little bit about me. We have a couple people in the room. There's James.
Hello, James Yorkie, County Administrator. Thanks for your time today.
Stacey Hawkins, County Commissioner.
All right, and you're stuck looking at me the whole time. I apologize. I'll just call out those that are appearing on my screen. Francis, you are first.
Well, I served on the board for 6 years, so I had to go off because after 6 years you have to go off. So I'm very interested in seeing how we replace Diane. She was.
And Francis, were you on the Extension Committee or the Community Center Board?
The Community Center Board.
Community Center Board. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Joan, you are next. You're muted. Joan, you're muted. We can't hear you. You have to unmute.
So it's probably good that I'm unmuted. So I talked a lot last time, and this time I just thought I'd come and listen.
Oh, you can talk all you'd like. That's just fine.
No, I don't say that.
Jenny, you're next on my screen.
Yes, good afternoon, and Nice to see you again, Jenny Sterling, Cook County Commissioner.
Ann Sullivan. And Ann, you're muted too.
Ann Sullivan, back again. We were here this morning with you, but I'm interested in listening to what our community members have to say. Thank you very much for participating, everyone.
Kelsey.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm just interested because there is some overlap of services provided by higher ed and by the community center and by extension. And we have worked a bunch with extension at Cook County Higher Ed. So curious to see what that next person might have for skills. As we've been offering some of it, maybe that'd be something that the community center would offer instead, and what that means for us for programming, but also what it means for you guys.
Kelsey, it's good to meet you. I actually just had a walking meeting with Lori Rothstein, and she suggested that I give you a call. She thought that that would be a good idea. So I'm really glad you're here. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
The last person on my screen, I'm not sure the name, Hartley is the last name.
Hi, yes, I'm Hartley, Newell, Lucero. I'm the outreach coordinator for Sawtooth Mountain Clinic, and I've been on the board of the Northwoods Food Project now for several years, in the capacity of as a SHIP representative and a clinic representative. So I just wanted to be here, see what was happening, offering any support that I could.
Well, thank you for being here. It looks like we have kind of a nice cross section of folks joining us. So that's wonderful. I do have a couple of questions from other people in the community that I'll address. But let me start by talking a little bit about extension. And for those of you who have been in meetings with me already during this visit, I apologize because you're listening to my same spiel over again. But for those who may be a little bit less familiar with extension, every state in the country has extension. And what that is your land grant university extending its reach into the counties. And our mission at the University of Minnesota is to extend our research, education, and outreach in a way that truly impacts lives and improves the quality of lives for Minnesotans. So that, as you can imagine, looks markedly different for every county that we work with. And Cook County is certainly no exception. You guys there's some very unique things about your county that would make it important to have this conversation. We break our work into 4 main buckets, and those buckets in this county will overlap each other. So the work Diane does falls into many of those buckets. I think actually probably a little bit of it into all of those buckets. But what those buckets are, the first one is youth development. So extension does a lot of programming with youth. Probably the biggest program that we have youth-wise is 4-H. So you probably have all heard of that. I think we used to have an active 4-H program in Cook County, and in the last few years that has gone away. We also have the STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and math. And sometimes that's connected to 4-H, sometimes not. And there's a lot of other programming we do with youth. So we have a lot of educators that are experts with youth and youth development. The second big bucket, and one that Diane does a significant amount of work in today, is our agriculture, food, and natural resources area. So we have hundreds of educators across the state who have various expertise in horticulture, in forestry, in agriculture, in livestock, and they work with local master gardeners, local master naturalists, local farmers. You don't have many farmers in Cook County. I think, as somebody told me today, there's just one. I think you might have one dairy farm. But you certainly have a robust master gardeners program and a lot of interest in both horticulture and forestry. So that is a big part of what we do. The third bucket is our family development. And this is where some of the things Diane does crosses over buckets. Our food and nutrition programs are in family and development, and Diane does a lot of that. So we do a lot with SNAP education, teaching families and parents how to eat healthy, how to have sustainable gardens. We work with people who are going to take advantage of programs like food assistance, and we help them to make good choices. We work with local food shelves to make sure that they offer good choices. So we do a whole lot of work in that area. We also have canning and jarring, so cottage foods certifications, those kind of curriculums we offer. And I know Diane does a lot of that work here as well. The last area where we do a lot of work is community vitality. And that is a lot of work with counties, EDA type work. So how to make counties economically growing. We do work around drawing people to counties, so marketing hometown America type work. We do a lot of work with leadership, local leadership, counties such as yours who have small populations to choose from, but need to have strong leaders within that population. We have programs for that. What else in vitality? We do things like studies. If a company is going out of business, we might do an economic impact study that helps to talk about what that's going to look like when it happens. So various things like that. Those are the four big buckets. The way we're structured is dictated by state statute, and that's been around for quite some time. So like I said, we are in all 87 counties and have offices in all those counties. And then the county decides what the staffing looks like. And we work with the county to make sure that the staff that we have in place are meeting your needs. So that's a little bit about us and what we do. The bigger point of having this discussion today was an opportunity for all of you to give input and ask questions. So I'll just start out there. Are there questions for me that you have about Extension or the university or Diane's role? Okay, then as we move
some
through
priorities that have been developed at all?
So that is, Kelsey, I believe this is you. And the question is, have we developed priorities? I think that's why I'm here. So these conversations that we had, and when we get through any questions you might have, that's what I'll ask for, is what your thoughts on what those priorities should be. We really are extending in a way that we want to meet the needs of the community. And the only way for us to really understand and know what those needs are today is to have these conversations. So I think, and James, you can chime in too, but the idea is that we want to listen to all of our various stakeholder groups, to members of the community, and then put together a plan for Diane's role that makes sense for your community. So looking for you to actually answer that question today.
And so, Lori, I'll add in, as we were looking at the job description, it's really two different jobs. Well, probably a dozen different jobs, but there are at least two distinct skill sets. One is the extension component of the job, which is a lot related to gardening, agriculture, horticulture, that kind of thing. And then there's also the community center management piece of it, which is more related to programming and facilities management and just kind of keeping all the things at the community center running. And so looking at that division of responsibilities, we thought we'd probably have more luck recruiting somebody with an extension background who could learn the other components of the job if they didn't already have that skill set, rather than the other way around. And so that's kind of our starting point. But again, we are using these listening sessions to inform our thinking about how to recruit for the position. And I want to be really clear, this is not about which programs do we weed out and discard. We want to maintain all the programming that the community has come to rely on. But we also realize that Diane has a really unique background, and that whoever we bring in when she leaves us is going to have a lot to learn. And so we're just wanting to figure out the best way to do that recruitment to ensure that the new candidate will be successful, and consequently that the community will be successful being served by him or her.
Are there other questions that you might have about extension, the work, the university?
Having worked on the community center board for 6 years, I think the biggest job she has was taking care of like the hockey rink and the skating rink and building that new building there for them and making sure the tennis courts were okay and if they need refinishing. And the playgrounds, she spent so much time on those playgrounds. And all the other things she did were really important, but the major part of her time, I think, was spent with the facilities and that area where people can come in and cook. There's so much in this job. We'll be lucky to find anybody that can do all that.
Thank you very much. I agree. Having had a lot of conversations over the last few days, I can say that, you know, that Diane has a lot of different roles wrapped into one. And so figuring out, you know, how you make sure that all these important things move forward is a challenge for sure. Other questions or thoughts?
I apologize for being late. I was having some technical issues.
Oh,
Had to try 2 different devices before I could jump on.
no
Were you
worries,
ask-
and welcome.
Thanks. Were you asking for input right now about?
The first thing I had said is if anybody has any questions. I talked a little bit about extension and the work that we typically do, and wondering if other people have questions about that and about Diane's role and how that fits.
Okay.
And Anne, where are you coming from? We did introductions and people, just to give me an idea of what organization you're with.
Yeah, well, I'm a retired teacher, and so Diane was really instrumental in a lot of the classwork that I did. One of her strengths, I think, is just being an advocate and being a very good grant writer. So she was continually feeding me opportunities and ideas. For instance, she'd find out that there was a workshop for teachers where you could grow and come home with a magiscope, which is like a simple microscope for 5th graders to use, and make your own grow light. And that got us started with grow lights. And then she eventually saw the interest that I had and that other teachers had. And then after not too much time went by, she found other grants and we had grow lights for our entire elementary school. And that led to building community gardens on school grounds. And, you know, did we want to have apple trees and a compost bin? And so one thing would just lead to another. Or she would find out that some bulb company was giving away free bulbs. So, you know, Anne, would you be interested in this? And so then I would, you know, develop curriculum and we would do experiments on planting bulbs in various medium and upside down and right side up. And so that was a key piece for me, was to have this woman in a position of being a scientist herself, having resources and having information coming to her and knowing that there are needs in the community. And she just kept feeding me information. So that would be a real important piece for me to see in the next person, you know, a scientist who understands the extension work and pays attention to the needs of the community and is a good grant writer. And then of course, personally, just as she's been a wonderful resource, anytime I've had any question about my own gardening, plants. I worked with children one summer, doing a summer program, a community gardening piece, you know, and she just was, again, full of ideas, hooked me up with master gardeners. So, and I just barely heard you mention how there are so many roles that she plays. And I'm sure she's lined that out for you, you know, the work that she's done. But I think it'll be really important to have this person who has the science know-how and the science background combined with a person who pays attention to community needs and can handle that.
And if you had to say what that science background would be, what would you say it needs to be?
Well, I guess, you know, the horticulturalist, the biologist, understanding plants and gardening and, that extension person. I guess that's the main thing I would see.
I did get a couple of pieces of feedback from members of the community. And this is a nice segue into one of it, because one person, Carolyn Dry, sent a list of attributes that she believes are needed for this role. So I will read those and then ask what else you might have to add to this list. Because this is one of the key things we're looking for today is, what type of person, what type of strengths do we really need? So Carolyn says, the person must have an intense interest in the community and physical health of the community, similar to what we had talked about already. Must have knowledge of plants and trees and ground coverings. Being a master gardener is a plus. Should be able to teach on tree maintenance. Will support the Apple Festival. I haven't heard about your Apple Festival. That sounds like a lot of fun. The community orchard, community garden, ice rink and house, etc. Must be an expert in writing grants. And I will say that has come up in every single conversation I have had, including lunch that I had with Diane today. Must have a high energy level for physical work. And Diane was actually staining beds, raised beds for her gardens today. So she was full of white paint. Must have social skills for interacting with a variety of people and administrative board members. Must be committed to staying on the job long-term. That's a hard one to promise for any of us on the hiring end, but I understand and fully agree that it's much better if a person is. Best if they know the community and are well-liked within it. So that's the list I have currently. Are there other things that you would add to that list?
And to just put a little finer point on being able to work with many people, I would say of all ages.
And spoke about Diane's ability to see needs and anticipate even before they've been spoken. And one of the things that I hold in such admiration for Diane is she is a phenomenal connector of the dots. She has a 36,000 foot view and is able to see how things go together with a fluency that just moves everything forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been amazing to watch happen as an observer, because it's just like she sees this, she puts them together, and the next thing you know, something's happened. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's very true. There's no way that she's taking just a compartmentalized view. It's community based. Therefore, people of many different groups are talking together, planning together, hoping and dreaming together. So that's a good point.
That was a really good way of articulating it. A lot of people have tried to articulate that about her, this idea that she really can connect the dots and put things together. So thank you. Other things that you're thinking, these are skills this person should have?
I just want to.
Francis, I think you're muted, so we can't hear everything. There you go. Oh, you unmuted and then muted again. There you go.
I just wanted to second this part about grant writing. That's the very first top thing that has to be done.
We'll definitely highlight that. She actually gave me a tour today and was telling me about this came from this grant and this came from this grant. And actually your 4-H, the log building, that's your 4-H building, the grant that she wrote for that building, I don't know how much people realize this, but I think it was teaching women about carpentry, I believe is the angle she took with that grant. So, I mean, she's not only writing grants, but she's really creatively thinking about how to connect those dots, how to say, this particular organization is offering funding to help teach women a trade. And I'm going to turn that into a way to renovate this building that I want to see renovated. That's pretty amazing. I was really crazy impressed with that. So yeah, you guys really do have a gem.
Mhm.
Okay, other skill sets that you think are necessary?
I guess I'm assuming that you've asked her this same question.
Yes, yep. I met with her for about an hour and a half today. Yep. Yeah, and if there are others that you would suggest that we, meet with in the community, certainly happy to do that. I met with folks who were affiliated with the community center on Friday. I met with the board, your county board, this morning. I met with Diane and then Lori Rothstein, who is an educator who lives out here in Cook County. I had a walk with her today, and boy, can she walk. I was sweating bullets by the end of that. And then, now meeting with the greater community to see if there are other folks who might want to have some input. So we're really interested in talking to anybody who might, have some input on this. Ultimately, it's your position.
And Lori, if I could add, the whole reason that we came up with the idea of having these listening sessions is that some months ago, when people started to get wind of the idea that Diane was retiring, we started getting a lot of emails. And people were very concerned because Diane has such a big impact on this community. And so that's why we thought, before we go too far, we really need to listen to people and make sure that we have sufficient input to really make some good decisions about who to hire. And so that's why we're doing this. And so that impact we are well aware of. Diane's just done so many things to improve the lives of people in this community. And we want to make sure that is continued.
Great. I do have a question then about on this level. So do you have a tentative time schedule here? I'm sure one of the things that Diane probably talked to you about was that she really would like to have someone in place so that she can train that person. So that's a time crunch because she's leaving in August. So I'm just wondering, if you've been discussing that at all.
Yes. So our plan is to, after these listening sessions, to take the input that we've received and kind of make final tweaks to the job description and start the recruitment process very shortly after we conclude this. Yeah.
Well, James, I just have to say, I am so impressed with what you're doing. I mean, when we first heard about, or we first started figuring out, oh, we better say something, we had no hopes that anybody would listen to us. And here you are, and here everybody is. And, let's say, I forget what your name is, Mrs. Extension person.
Lori.
Okay. Lori, Lori is so awesome. And having her come up here, I've been telling people, someone from Extension came up here to see. So we are very impressed with, what you're doing, and thank you.
Well, Joan, you are one of those voices that prompted us to take this step. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's so, how many times do you ever complain and nothing ever happens? And and all of a sudden, here this is going on, and I just am feeling so, it's actually made me feel more a part of the community than I ever have, because is the input that I gave is there's other people are doing it too, and we're getting a response. And so thank you. I really thank you.
Well,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for saying those nice things with 3 commissioners on this meeting. I really appreciate it.
I have to say, after spending 4 days in your community, it's been so welcoming. And and I've talked to a lot of people about Diane Extension. Everybody knows Diane, and everybody knows her work and has wonderful things to say about her. But I'm a little bit jealous of whoever gets this job. Whoever it is a pretty lucky individual. So yeah, I'm quite sure you'll get somebody fantastic. But the concern I have after all these listenings, you're not going to get another Diane. And so I hope everybody knows that, and to, set those expectations and say, it's going to be somebody new and different, and that person will shape the role in his or her own way. But we really want to make sure that at the core, we understand what the community needs from this role so that we make sure that those needs front and center are covered. I did have one other person who wrote in with a couple of questions, and they're a little bit long, but I want to make sure that I give due time to those folks who took time to send in some questions. And actually, I think the first portion of this might be more for James than me, but I'll take a stab at it. The first is a structure question. This person says, combining the community center program with the extension office program seems to me to do harm to both programs. Both are keystone institutions in our community, and both deserve the full attention from at least one full-time staff person. Is there any chance the county and extension would consider creating 2 full-time positions, one for extension and one for the community center? Collaborative relationship between both programs is beneficial, but by splitting the roles into 2 separate positions, each program would get the full attention it deserves. So we've actually talked quite a bit about this, about James and I, about how this position is a combination of a lot of things. So funding wise, and James, you can chime in, I believe that the county is committed to funding a full-time position going forward. But there's not funding for 2 full-time positions going forward. So we kind of have to figure out, what we do with that. That being said, we have talked about, are there things within this role that might have a home somewhere else in the county? And Diane herself said, once we have a new person in place, it would be really nice to see where that person's passions lie. And if there are programs that I'm working on that person, it may not be in their bailiwick, then maybe we find a home for those programs somewhere else. And she herself seemed pretty dedicated to helping do that. Not that she's on the hook for that, but I think that, like all of you, she doesn't want to see important programs go away. So I think there is a desire on everybody's part to make sure that the important programs that Diane has started and managed continue to live. But that's not going to look like 2 full-time positions. James, did I get that right? I don't know if he's muted.
There we go.
There we go.
Myself. Okay, so you're right, Lori. Currently, we only have budget for 1 position. The point that the commenter made is well taken. Diane's job is truly at least 2 jobs, if not more. And we would love to be able to bring in 2 people to fill this position. But currently we don't have budget for that. And so, we're going to proceed with recruiting 1 person to take this position. If over time, folks in the community feel like there's a greater need and that we really need to think about adding another, if not full-time, at least part-time position to help our new candidate, that's going to be a decision for the Board of County Commissioners to take up. I mean, what I can do is, as I'm hearing those comments in the community, and I know the commissioners will as well, is to relay that information back to the board so that we can make a decision about whether we need to add something into our new budget for another position. But at this point, there are no plans to do that.
Thanks, James. So any other questions about the position, funding for the position?
Oh, I agree 100% that the extension agent could be a separate one from the rest of the program. And even if you had a half-time extension agent and then a full-time to do the rest of all that work she does, it would really help.
Thanks, Francis. I did have one other question from outside, and this person knows a lot about extension, so it is a little bit long-winded. I'll maybe paraphrase a little bit and try to answer it as best I can. The person says, I've been extremely curious about where the extension program might be headed in the future because I'm interested in the concepts of place, ecology, sustainability, and culture. Extension programs have the potential to interact with all these things, but only if the programs actually fit the geography and the culture of the location. I've looked at the old extension work plans for Cook County and have looked at the programs that extension offers statewide and have wondered why we in Cook County have a master gardeners program, but no master woodlot owner or master naturalist program. And the person does go on to ask about some specific pieces of extension. So yeah, I believe Cook County does actually have a master naturalist program. It's not connected to your extension office right now because the structure is a little bit different in Cook County than it is across the state. In that Diane is a county employee, so with extension, a lot of our extension agents, Francis, as you refer to, they're called extension educators today. They are university employees, so they are connected to the university and extension, and then would then have connection to that program in the county. So I believe you do have master naturalists in the county, but I don't think they work much with Diane's office. She does work closely with the master gardeners, so I think you guys know you have a pretty robust program there. The master woodlot owners program, that's an interesting one in this county. I don't know if you have any of those. It's a smaller program, but one that would make a lot of sense for Cook County, given the amount of woodland you have here. So I can't speak to that one a lot, except to say really it's the same answer. That, you know, Diane's connection with the university extension office is quite limited right now. And so we wouldn't have that interaction with those programs. So I would have to look and see if you have any certified master woodlot owners in the county. It wouldn't surprise me if you do. We just don't know it through extension.
That's really interesting that, so something like that might be actually the certified master woodlot program might really be effective through the Soil and Water Conservation District, because they're really interested in doing forestry work. And this, you know, if this might be a good fit with them. So
yeah. And these are connections that, you know, I think there's opportunity for connections like that to happen. You know, much like Diane has made connections with a lot of organizations, I think this is one that would be a natural fit for this county. There also is a question about 4-H. Would 4-H be a great fit for the county? And my understanding is you used to have a 4-H program in the county. I actually talked to Diane about this at length today. 4-H, I think, yes, of course, we would advocate to have it in any county. 4-H is a youth program that's based on research. So it's not just about fun stuff for kids to do. It's about 4 areas of child development that we think are important based on research and programs around each one of those areas. And so, you know, and it is more than just what it used to be, is, you know, showing animals at your county fair. But Diane said when she started, there was a 4-H program, and it got more difficult to maintain that program because it is volunteer driven. And so I think she got to a place where she just, you know, had a hard time making sure there were enough volunteers to keep the program viable. So of course we would love to see a program like that come back to life in the county. In fact, that building that was renovated is your 4-H building. And I think that the community center is built on property that was meant to be your county fairground. So I think we no longer have a county fair. Yeah. So I think there's so much opportunity to go in a lot of directions with this. So kudos to whoever wrote this, because they have a pretty good understanding and did their homework of what's going on. And it sounds like you actually did at one time have a lot of these programs. They've just kind of fallen aside over time. So I think a person coming in here and really be able to assess the needs of the community and think about what could we do here and taking steps to move them forward would be a very good thing.
Yeah, my understanding is that as it got trickier to find those volunteers and numbers got lower, but the programming for children increased, but in different ways.
Yeah.
So there are more connections with the school, for instance, or the summer programming. So I'm happy that we didn't leave children behind, but we kind of, seems like switch gears would be a way of, not to say that we can't bring 4-H back, but there were probably some good reasons for that.
Yeah, and as I'm listening, it sounds like one of the biggest programs, youth programs that we offer that would be maybe really beneficial here would be STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and math program that we do, just because the composition of your county. So I think there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
Mhm. Do folks have other questions, concerns, thoughts about this role?
Nope. Wishing you luck.
Yeah, I think that, thank you for that. Yeah, I think James and myself, anyone involved in this search has their work cut out for them. Yeah.
It's been really helpful to hear from community members. This really informs our process for looking for a new candidate, and really appreciate the time and effort that many people, not in this meeting today, but just people in the community have emailed and called to say, hey, this is important. This position impacts the community in so many ways. And we recognize that, we see it in its fullness, and we want to make sure that we're approaching this in a way that is respectful of the work that Diane has done, the contributions that she's made to the community. And we're optimistic that we're going to find somebody who shares that passion. That's going to be our goal. So
Great.
Here.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments or feedback? I want to not end the call if anybody has anything else to contribute to the conversation, but also not keep you longer if we're kind of done.
Lori, I see that Melissa Rexroad joined us late, and I wanted to ask if Melissa had any comments that she wanted to make about Diane's position or the recruitment process.
Oh, you're on mute, Melissa.
If you're trying to talk, yeah.
I guess she's just listening.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, and Melissa, if you don't have the ability to, oh no, she did unmute, go ahead.
Okay.
I was just curious about the future of the position. I have a Parks and Recreation degree from Mankato, so I was just curious what you guys were doing with the position, that's all. So I was listening as I work, sorry.
All righty, no worries. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
I think with that, has everyone had a chance to sort of provide some feedback and ask questions?
Yep.
I think so.
Yep.
Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions, then I am happy to give you a little bit of time back. However, I will say, please feel absolutely free to reach out to James or myself at any time if you think, oh, wait a minute, we should have talked about this and we forgot to do that. Or if there are other people you think that we should be connecting with while we think about this position, please do let us know.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh,
Thanks
thank
for
you
your
so
time
much for
today.
joining us. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay.
All right. Take
Have
care.
a safe trip back.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
thank you so much.